friends, today's simple video, how to change your strings. I've been meaning to do this for a while, but I always forget, but I've got no strings on my guitar at the moment, so let's do it. Nylon strings, of course. I use Savarez red strings. They don't sponsor me or anything, it's just what I use. They're a bit more expensive than usual strings. They're very, very good, very high quality. I play concerts most weeks and I play a lot of guitar, so I change my strings every week. I wouldn't recommend that for most people. I think nylon strings last pretty well. If you're just playing at home, they can even last for several months. Basically, the two ways to tell it's time to change a string, if they get dirty, which when you see these strings I put on today, they're quite beautiful steel. After a couple concerts, they'll start to dull and soon they actually get quite dirty. If your strings are dirty, change them. And up here at the bridge, I regret taking the strings off before I did this video. But up here at the bridge, you'll sometimes see some fraying, or even here at the bridge piece, you'll see a bit of fraying at the strings there, and that's when it's time to change them. So maybe next time I'll do a proper video of that. I'm gonna show you some basic techniques, and I'm gonna show you a couple things that I do myself, little, maybe you could call them advanced things, that I find quite helpful. So 6th string here. There's a kind of standard way to tie the strings, but as I said, I've got some little tricks I will show you shortly. One piece of advice I find is that changing nylon strings should be done at least a full day, and ideally 2 or 3 full days before the guitar is needed again, because they take quite a lot of time to go into tune. So today's a Wednesday, and my next concert's on Friday. That's why I'm changing the strings now. Even that's cutting it a bit fine. Maybe I should have done this yesterday, sorry. Maybe I should have changed them on the Tuesday for a Friday concert, but they'll be fine. So you take your string, and we've got to push it through the hole here, wherever that hole is. Push it through. So we've got the string like that. Leave a decent amount, that's a decent amount of length there. Wrap it around once, so it goes through the loop once, through the loop twice. Now I'm holding this end, so it's about just there, and pulling through quite tight. You see that kind of classic double loop kind of thing, and that can either be cut off or can be tied to the next string. Now we're pulling it tight. Now this is the bass strings. Bass strings, we're just going through the hole, pulling it reasonably tight, tuning it up. I don't even bother, personally, I'm not even gonna bother trying to get this string in tune now. Probably after I film this video, I might do a quick tune, but basically what I'm saying is I'm gonna give this a full day to get in tune. So you hear a bit of clicking and stuff, a bit of a stretch. As long as the string's on the guitar, at this point I'm happy, because this tuning process will take time. Even though just then the string slipped quite considerably, so I'm just gonna tune it up. But that string's basically on that guitar, so we're happy with that for now. If I play, it's very, very low. Now, what I'm gonna do, for the A string, I would do exactly the same thing as I just did on the E. I'm gonna show you a little trick that I do on the D string. The reason it's the D string is because I seem to break D strings more than any other string, and my bandmate Tom in Calidad also seems to break D strings more than any other string. So there seems to be something there, because we have completely different playing styles, but we both get through a lot of D strings. So I've got a little trick that I use on the D string, and I'd like to show it to you. It doesn't necessarily stop you from breaking the string anymore, unfortunately, but it gives you a better chance of using the string when it's broken. So same story, feed it through, just wrap it around, pretty simple, loop through, and again, loop through, double loop, oops. 1 loop, 2 loop, cool, that's good, nice and tight on that. Now, this is what I do. I do go through the tuning peg and turn it a couple times. Basically, this little trick that I'm showing you is, for example, on the low E string, that will get cut off usually. And most of the time when you change your strings, you cut off the excess strings. What I do on the D string, and also the top E string, because I break that a lot, what I do is I try and preserve the length of the string. So let me show you how I'm gonna do that. I've now wrapped that, just tuned that a couple times, so it's wrapped around a couple times. What I'm gonna do now is push this string back up here, So this is my loose end of the string that usually would be unused for most applications. Another tip, I'm not doing it right now, but, and I seem to be a bit more heavy-handed than usual, maybe I'm nervous because the camera's rolling. You can use pliers or something like that as a bit of a grip. So I've got some in my case somewhere. Rather than wrap that around, I'll just show you like this. I'll just chin it one more time. So the trick that I want to show you is that instead of cutting off this string, I feed it back through. Basically, it's a way to store that piece of string. So I want to keep it because often the strings break. The most common place for these nylon strings to break is here at the bridge. And so when they break at the bridge, when it breaks there, you've got a perfectly good string that's broken there and you've only lost that length of string, which is a few inches. So what I do by preserving this length of string here in the tuning peg, if and when that does snap there, I will actually have enough string here to put this string back on and say you can get to the end of your concert or get to the end of your rehearsal session or get to the end of the week if you know that you're going to change your strings every week like I do or whatever. So what I've done there is just put the remaining bits of string back through the tuning peg about 2 or 3 times so that I have a bit of spare string up my sleeve. That leads me to another tip actually that I will remind you of. When you remove your strings, I mean, if they're filthy and broken, chuck them out, sure. If they're not too bad and you're just changing your strings as a kind of maintenance kind of concept, which is what I do, keep the strings. Keep them in a plastic bag or in a bag in your guitar case or at home and maybe label them just something like, you know, full set of strings, full set of used strings. So if you're at a pinch, if you're at a concert, if you've run out of strings, whatever, you do have strings that, I mean, used strings can definitely be put back on the guitar. They might not be the nicest or the freshest, but it's just something worth thinking about. If they're not too bad, keep them. Okay, top E string. This is my most important string. It's the one I play the most, the one I break the most. A few things I do here. One of them, I do a triple loop. So top E string, 1, 2, which is what I do on the other strings, but I do 3 on the top E. I also usually do 3 on the B. That's 3 loops. 1, 2, 3. Nice and tight. This is the string that I use the most. Pulling it through there. Although I seem to have just put that wrong end on. Okay, so the Savarev strings has got that little ball end there, so I'm actually going to take that off and put the ball end through there. Thanks for watching, by the way. I know it took me a while to learn how to do this, and I had help doing it, so if it solves a mystery for anyone. But yeah, that tip about the D string, keeping the D string there. You can also just have the strings hanging off, but I find that looks really messy. I hate how it looks. I don't even like a little bit like that. I'm quite fastidious about how my strings look, so even that little loop, I don't want to see that in a live concert photo or video or anything like that. So look, you can just have the strings hanging off, sure, and a lot of, Tom Morello does that sometimes. He's my favorite guitarist, but that's how I get around it. So 1, 2, 3, the third loop, keep the string extra tight. Bang, that is not going anywhere. Up here, through, tuning it around a couple times. Remember, I'm not even going to bother trying to get this guitar in tune now, and maybe after we turn the camera off and I post the video, I'll do a tune. But I mean, my bandmates are coming over for a practice in a couple hours. I will expect to use another guitar for that practice. I don't expect this guitar to be ready in 2 hours. I'll use another guitar to actually play today, and I'll keep this by my side, and in breaks with the band at lunchtime and stuff, I'll do my tuning. Okay, so I've just tuned that a couple times. What I'm going to do as before, bring the string back through. So I've got the string and I feed it again through the tuner. So it's literally a place to store that extra length of string so that if and when the string breaks, this string is nice and long and I can use it again. Just turn that tuner a few times. So that took me a while to figure out. I mean, I got through a lot of strings because I'd always cut them and then it would break. It's like, it's just a tiny bit too short to actually put back on. So now the important ones I don't cut. Bottom E's can also break a lot. So bottom E, especially if you're kind of smashing it, playing really hard. D seems to go a lot of chords. If you think about your chords, almost every chord uses the D string. So that's probably why it cops so much abuse. And that second fret of the D string, that E note, they often fray there. And then the top string, I think a lot of it is a function of how I play. I use the top string a lot and I play it very hard. So I get through a lot of those. So I think this is the third or maybe even fourth time I've gone into that hole. So it's getting pretty tight in there now. You can't get much more in there. But I do have the full length of that E string now on this guitar. There's a bit hanging off. I can either cut that tiny bit. We'll see if I can get it in a fifth time. So I've got some spare ammunition on my E string and my D string there. You can do it with the others too, which I kind of do, but they break a lot less, for me at least. Those are just the tips I wanted to show you. So the looping tie, triple loop for the skinnier strings, and keeping a bit of string up the top there for when the strings break. Also just be conscious, time to change the strings. Basically obviously when they break, of course, but be good to change them often enough that they don't break. If they're getting dirty, a bit filthy, change them, or if they're getting frayed here, change them. And when you take the strings off the guitar, one of the things, I paint my guitar. I'll do a lesson on that soon because it's fun and people ask me about it. So I always paint it with the strings off and clean the fretboard. When you take, most guitars will have a bit of dirt or grime or whatever around the frets. So when the strings are off, it's a great chance to give it a clean, even just with tissue, toilet paper, earbud cleaner. I think Americans call them Q-tips. They're good for cleaning guitars. Just whatever you need to do. A tiny bit of water won't hurt your guitar, so you can have a wet cloth. And dust the tuners. Dust it off when you clean it. Keep your guitar nice and clean. So dust it when you change the strings. Thank you for watching. I hope that was useful. Please leave me a comment. Let me know how it's going, how your playing is going, and how these videos can be more beneficial to you. Thank you so much.